The silence of space was broken by a faint pulse, an unusual signal reaching Earth's listening stations. Deep inside the high-tech control room, Dr. Elena Rivera stared at the glowing screen, her heart pounding. The signal was unlike anything she had seen before. It came from a far-off system in the uncharted sectors of the galaxy, a place humans had only dreamed about exploring. The pattern was complex but urgent. It was a distress call. The room buzzed with activity as scientists and military officers gathered around. Some said it might be a natural phenomenon. Others whispered that it could be a trick, or worse, a trap. But the signal repeated, clear and desperate. It was a call for help from an alien civilization in deep trouble. Captain Marcus Kane stood in the command center, watching the data flow. A seasoned leader with sharp eyes, he had faced many crises on Earth, but this was different. This call came from beyond the stars, and answering it could mean stepping into the unknown. The worlds. Leaders debated. Sending a rescue team meant risking lives, resources, and perhaps the safety of Earth itself, yet ignoring the plea went against everything humanity stood for. The final decision was clear. A mission would launch. Humanity would respond. The crew assembled fast. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, the best and brightest chosen to represent Earth. Their ship, the Aegis, was one of the fastest ever built, designed for deep space travel and unknown dangers. As the countdown began, tension filled the air. The public watched, hope and fear mixing in their hearts. On board the Aegis, Captain Kane addressed his team. "We don't know what awaits us out there," he said. "But we answer this call because that's who we are. We help. We protect. We fight to survive. Stay sharp. Stay together." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, the vast darkness of space stretched ahead. Stars blurred into streaks of light. The distress signal grew, stronger, guiding them like a distant beacon through the endless void. Days passed. The crew studied the data from the signal, trying to learn about the planet it came from. It was a world unlike any other, harsh, with a strange atmosphere and signs of conflict. The message was full of warnings and fear, speaking of a disaster they could barely understand. Suddenly, signal cut out. Silence filled the ship. The team scrambled to find any sign of life or danger. Their scanners showed a planet scarred and broken, orbiting a dying star. The once vibrant world was now a shadow of itself, smoke rising from vast fires, storms raging across shattered continents. The Aegis entered orbit, scanning for survivors. Flicker on the surface caught the crew's eyes. A small group of aliens, huddled and scared. Their forms were unfamiliar, with pale skin and eyes wide with terror. They carried strange devices and weapons, but their hands shook. Captain Kane ordered a landing party. As they touched down, the tension was thick. The aliens looked at the humans with a mix of hope and suspicion. One of the survivors, named Lyra, stepped forward. Her voice was soft but firm. "We sent the call because we are running out of time. Our enemy is coming. It is unstoppable." The crew listened closely, realizing this was more than a rescue. It was the start of a war. As night fell on the alien planet, strange sounds echoed in the distance. The crew prepared for what might come, knowing that their journey had just begun, and that the choices they made next could change the fate of many worlds. The Aegis hung in the alien sky like a silver bird, its engines humming softly as Captain Marcus Kane and his team prepared to explore the strange world beneath them. The planet was a harsh place. Red dust storms whipped across the cracked ground, and the air tasted faintly metallic through their suits. The distant horizon flickered with flashes of lightning and rolling thunder, a reminder that this planet was alive and angry. The alien survivors, led by Lyra, guided the humans toward their settlement. It was a scattered cluster of buildings, some damaged, some barely standing. The place felt fragile, as if it could crumble under the weight of its own history. The humans studied every detail, alert to threats both visible and hidden. Inside the main building, the survivors shared what little they knew. Their language was broken, but with translators and patience, The humans learned about the enemy, an unstoppable force that came from the planet's deep shadows. These creatures, called the Shadow Swarm, moved fast and in silence. They consumed everything: machines, plants, even energy itself. No weapon had stopped them yet. Captain Kane's team listened carefully. The aliens showed scars, old and new, and spoke of friends lost. Their voices trembled with fear, but also determination. They had fought hard but needed help. Help only humanity's technology and courage could provide. But even as they planned, strange things began to happen. Sensors on the Aegis detected flickers and seen movements just beyond their camps. It brought eerie sounds, whispers of something stalking through the ruins. The humans realized the Shadow Swarm was closer than anyone had thought. One night, alarms blared. The enemy struck. From the darkness, shapes surged like waves of smoke and ash, crashing against the survivors' defenses. The humans fought bravely, their weapons cutting through the swarm's shadows. But the creatures kept coming, endless, relentless. The battle was chaotic and terrifying. Explosions lit the sky, screams echoed through the air, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Captain Kane directed his team with calm focus, but even he felt the weight of the attack. Their weapons slowed the swarm, but could not stop it. In the midst of the fight, Lyra disappeared, snatched by the enemy, or forced to flee. When dawn broke, the battlefield was a shattered wasteland. Many survivors were lost. The humans and aliens gathered, grief and fear heavy in the air. The Shadow Swarm had won this round, but the fight was far from over. Captain Kane stood before the group, his voice steady but urgent. "We came to help," he said. "Now we know what we face. We will learn, we will adapt, and we will fight together." As the sun rose over the broken land, the humans and survivors prepared for the war ahead, knowing that every moment could be their last. The morning after the brutal attack was heavy with silence. The camp lay in ruins, tents torn apart, fires still smoldering where fierce battles had raged. The survivors moved like ghosts, wounded, exhausted, and afraid. The humans, led by Captain Marcus Kane, helped tend to the injured and gather the scattered supplies. But beneath the surface, something deeper troubled them. Lyra was missing. The alien leader's disappearance left a void. No one knew if she was alive, captured, or worse. Her absence made the survivors uneasy. Without her, their hope dimmed. Humans pushed forward with caution, exploring deeper into the ruins of the alien city. They found evidence of a once great civilization, buildings carved from shining stone, strange machines long silent, and walls covered in symbols no one could yet understand. But everywhere they went, signs of destruction were clear, burned out. Corridors, crushed vehicles, and strange claw marks carved into metal. Among the survivors were others, like Lyra, quiet and wary. Some refused to speak much, watching the humans with suspicion. Captain Kane understood their fear. It was hard to trust outsiders when everything you know is falling apart. One night, around a small fire, an elder survivor named Teres finally spoke. His voice was low, but firm. "The Shadow Swarm is not just a beast," he said. "It is a curse from the past, something our ancestors made and then lost control of." The humans listened carefully. Teres told stories of the enemy's origin, how the ancient civilization had created the swarm as a weapon, a living force meant to protect them from enemies. But it turned against them, growing wild and unstoppable. It consumed everything in its path, spreading darkness across the planet. The survivors had been fighting a losing battle for generations. Captain Kane felt the weight of this history. The distress call wasn't just a cry for help. It was a warning from a dying race. As days passed, strange events continued. The survivors' camp was hit by sudden power failures. Equipment malfunctioned. Shadows moved in the corners of the eye. The enemy was watching, learning. The humans decided to split into two groups, one to protect the survivors and rebuild defenses, the other to explore the ancient ruins and search for clues about defeating the swarm. During a dangerous expedition, a small team discovered a hidden chamber deep underground. Inside, They found advanced technology machines humming faintly with power, and records of battles long past. Among the data was a message from the ancient civilization, a desperate plea to future generations to find a way to control or destroy the swarm. Before it consumed all life, the discovery brought new hope, but also new questions. Could the humans and survivors use this technology? Or was it too late? Back at the camp, tensions rose. Some survivors blamed the humans for bringing danger closer. Others saw them as the only chance left. Captain Kane worked to hold the fragile peace, knowing that unity was the only way forward. One night, as the team prepared for another scouting mission, a faint signal reached the Aegisa last message from Lyra. It was weak and garbled, but it spoke of a secret place where the enemy's power was weakest. The team's resolve hardened. They would find Lyra. They would uncover the truth behind the swarm. And they would fight to save this broken world, Evan, if it cost them everything. The alien planet's night was darker than ever, thick clouds blotting out the stars. The camp was tense, every eye watching the shadows beyond the flickering fires. The survivors and humans knew that the shadow swarm was still out there, silent. Waiting and hungry, Captain Marcus Kane stood by the communications array reviewing data from the scouts. The signals showed strange movements, small groups of the swarm creeping closer, probing defenses. The atmosphere was heavy with fear and anticipation. No one wanted to speak of the attack that might come, but everyone knew it was near. Suddenly, alarms shattered the silence. Red lights flashed, and sirens screamed through the camp. The shadow swarm had struck. From the darkness, wave after wave of shadowy creatures surged forward like a living storm. Their forms twisted and changed, almost like smoke and ash made flesh. They moved with terrifying speed, their eyes glowing faintly as they attacked without mercy. The survivors fired their weapons, bursts of blue energy lighting the air. The humans responded with their advanced rifles and grenades, but the swarm was relentless. The creatures swarmed over barriers, tearing through defenses and closing in on the frightened camp. Captain Kane shouted orders, directing the fight with sharp precision. Hold the line. Protect the civilians. Focus fire on the larger ones. His voice cut through the chaos, a steady anchor amid the storm. The battle was brutal. Explosions rocked the ground, fires blazed, and screams echoed as friends fell. Despite the humans' technology and the survivors' bravery, the swarm adapted fast. They seemed to learn from every attack, avoiding traps and changing their tactics. In the heart of the fighting, a sudden explosion threw Captain Kane to the ground. His vision blurred as pain shot through his side. Round him, soldiers kept fighting, their faces grim but determined. He pushed himself up, refusing to fall. As the attack wore on, the survivors and humans managed to push the swarm back, but at a great cost, many were injured or lost. The enemy retreated into the darkness, but their glowing eyes promised they would return. After the battle, the camp was a scene of devastation. Bodies lay scattered and shattered equipment smoldered. The survivors mourned their loss, but the fight was far from over. Captain Kane gathered his team. "This was just the beginning," he said grimly. "The shadow swarm is stronger than we thought. We need to find their source and stop them before they destroy everything."
Oh.
The humans and survivors worked quickly to rebuild defenses and treat the wounded. As they did, strange reports came from scouts and natural movements beneath the planet's surface and pulses of energy that didn't match any known technology. The mystery deepened. The shadow swarm was not just a mindless beast, but something connected to the planet itself, like an ancient force awakened and angry. That night, the camp settled into uneasy silence. Captain Kane stared out into the darkness. The war had begun. In earnest, the humans had answered the distress call. But the true battle for the planet's survival was only just starting. The camp was quiet after the fierce battle, but the tension hung thick in the air. Captain Marcus Kane stood with the alien survivors near the edge of their broken city. Looking at the ruins that whispered stories long forgotten, the fight with the shadow swarm had been brutal. But it had also opened new questions about who these enemies really were, and why they were so unstoppable. Lyra's last message had given them a clue, a secret place where the swarm's power was. Weaker Kane decided they had to find it. But first they needed answers. A small team of humans and survivors set out toward the ancient ruins outside the camp. The buildings there were massive, towering stone structures covered with strange symbols and carvings. The team moved carefully, alert to traps or enemies lurking in the shadows. As they entered the largest building, they discovered a hidden chamber deep underground. The air was thick with dust, and faint blue lights glowed from strange machines lining the walls. It was clear that this was once a place of knowledge and power. In the center of the room was a device, a glowing orb surrounded by etched symbols. When activated, the orb projected a holographic message. An ancient alien figure appeared, their voice echoing across the chamber. "We created the Shadow Swarm to protect us," the message said. "But we lost control. It became our greatest enemy. If you find this, beware. Our mistakes must not be repeated." The team absorbed the warning in silence. The Shadow Swarm was not just a wild beast, it was a weapon gone wrong. The ancestors had made a creature so powerful that even they could not stop it. Captain Kane realized this meant the distress call was more than a plea for rescue. It was a warning to anyone who would listen. As they explored further, they found more technology, tools, and weapons designed to fight the swarm. Some were damaged, but others could be repaired and used. The humans shared ideas and worked quickly, knowing time was running out. Back at the camp, the survivors argued. Some wanted to flee the planet, believing it was doomed. On fighting to the end, clinging to hope, Captain Kane called a meeting. "We can't run from this," he said. "We have the chance to learn from the past. We have the power to change the future. Together we must stand and fight." His words stirred something in the survivors. Fear was still there, but so was courage. But the Shadow Swarm was not waiting. Their attacks grew stronger and more frequent. Each battle revealed how quickly the enemy adapted, turning the survivors' defenses against them. The humans and survivors worked tirelessly, combining their strengths, human technology, alien knowledge, and sheer willpower. One night, as the team prepared to launch a new assault, the ground trembled. From beneath the ruins, a deep, low rumble grew louder, shaking the walls. The Shadow Swarm was rising again, and this time it was coming for them all. The ground shook beneath the camp as the Shadow Swarm's rumble grew louder. The survivors and humans braced themselves, knowing the enemy was preparing for a massive assault. Captain Marcus Kane stood with his team, watching the horizon darken as the storm of creatures approached. This was no ordinary attack. The Shadow Swarm had changed. In the days since their first battles, the enemy had learned from every fight. They moved faster, their attacks more coordinated and deadly. They had developed new forms, larger, stronger, and smarter. If the swarm itself was evolving, adapting to the humans and aliens trying to stop it, the team scrambled to develop new weapons and tactics. Engineers worked day and night, repairing ancient technology and combining it with human innovation. Scientists studied the swarm's behavior, searching for patterns or weaknesses. But every success was met with a new challenge. The swarm's evolution seemed endless, pushing the defenders to their limits. Captain Kane felt the pressure keenly. The weight of lives depended on every decision. He pushed his team hard but kept their spirits up. "We learn, we adapt, we survive," he told them. "We are stronger together." The humans and survivors trained, fought, and rebuilt again and again. Each battle was a test of endurance and courage, yet the emotional toll grew. Soldiers lost friends. Survivors faced the pain of watching their homes destroyed. Even Captain Kane struggled with doubt. One night, as the camp recovered from a fierce attack, a scout returned with shocking news. The swarm had begun to infiltrate the planet's underground tunnels, the very place the ancient technology was. Hidden, if the enemy controlled the tunnels, they could strike anywhere, anytime. The team devised a desperate plan, a strike into the heart of the swarm's territory. Aiming to destroy its command center and stop its evolution, the mission was dangerous, almost a suicide run, but the only chance left as they prepared. Captain Kane looked at his crew, knowing this battle could decide the planet's fate. The humans and survivors moved silently through the dark tunnels, their weapons ready, hearts pounding. Deep inside the enemy's lair, they discovered terrifying secrets. The swarm was not just a mindless force, but controlled by an ancient intelligence, a dark presence born from the planet's past. The final fight was brutal and fierce. Sacrifices were made, but in the end, the team struck a critical blow to the swarm's core. For a moment, silence fell. The enemy's power weakened, but Captain Kane knew the war was not over. The galaxy itself was watching, and humanity's role had only just begun. After the desperate strike deep within the Shadow Swarm's lair, a fragile silence settled over the alien world. The core of the enemy had been damaged, its dark pulse slowed. The survivors and humans believed their hardest battles might be behind them. But Captain Marcus Kane knew better. The war was far from over. The planet's skies, once black with storm clouds and enemy shadows, began to clear. The fires that had ravaged the land smoldered low, and the survivors started to rebuild, weary but hopeful. Yet beneath this fragile calm, a different kind of danger stirred. The ancient intelligence controlling the swarm, though wounded, was awakening. Hidden deep beneath the surface, in tunnels untouched by battle, it began to gather strength. Feeding on the planet's core energy and the remnants of the swarm it once controlled, it was no longer just a destructive force, but something aware. Something patient. Captain Kane and his team gathered to discuss their next move. The data from their last mission showed strange energy spikes coming from the planet's heart. The ancient intelligence was not defeated. It was preparing to rise again, stronger and more dangerous. Lyra's voice, recorded in fragments from before her disappearance, echoed in the Aegis's halls. The enemy is not just outside. It is inside. It grows with the planet. If we do not act, it will consume everything. The team knew they needed to find a way to stop this dark presence once and for all. Scientists worked feverishly to understand the ancient technology scattered in the ruins. They discovered a device, a weapon designed to contain or destroy the intelligence. It was risky and untested, but it was their only hope. The survivors and humans prepared for what might be their final mission, a dangerous journey into the planet's core to activate the weapon. As they descended into the depths, the tunnels grew colder and darker. Strange noises echoed, whispers, growls, and the faint hum of ancient machines waking from long sleep. The team faced traps and creatures. Twisted by the swarm's dark power, every step was a fight for survival. Deep in the core, they found the ancient intelligence, a vast, shadowy entity pulsing with energy. Its form shifting like smoke and light. It spoke without words, sending fear and doubt into their minds, trying to break their will. But Captain Kane stood firm. "We fight for life," he said, "for hope, for every world out there. We will not let darkness win." With the survivors by his side, the humans activated the ancient weapon. A bright pulse of energy spread through the tunnels. Breaking the dark force's hold, the intelligence screamed in rage and pain, then slowly faded. Its power shattered. As they emerged, the planet seemed to breathe again. The storm ceased. The fires died, and life began to stir. The survivors looked to the humans with gratitude and new respect. Captain Kane knew the mission was a success, but also a beginning. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's courage. Their response to one distress call had changed everything. But out there, beyond the stars, new threats were stirring, and humanity would be ready. The alien planet was no longer a place of endless shadows and destruction. After the final battle, deep beneath the surface, peace had begun to take root. The survivors worked alongside the humans to rebuild their homes, repairing what the shadow swarm had torn apart. The red dust settled, and slowly green shoots of new life pushed through. The cracked ground, it was a new beginning. Captain Marcus Kane stood on a high ridge, looking over the recovering landscape. The sun rose in the clear sky, casting warm light on the scars of war. he felt a mix of relief and caution. They had won a great battle, but the galaxy was vast. Threats were never far away. The humans and survivors gathered in the rebuilt settlement for a ceremonious symbol of unity and hope. Lyra's voice, now heard through recordings recovered from the planet, played softly. "We called for help," she said. "And humanity answered. Together we saved our world." Awes and quiet tears mixed in the crowd. The survivors looked to the humans not as strangers, but as allies and friends. The bond between them was strong, forged in fire and courage. Yet beneath the celebration, Captain Kane's mind raced. The ancient intelligence had been defeated, but it was born from the planet itself. What if other worlds held similar dangers? What if the darkness was only one part of a larger threat? His team had learned much from alien technology to the power of unity. Earth's response to a single distress call had shocked the galaxy, showing that humanity could face the unknown and stand strong. Suddenly, a message arrived on the Aegis's Cum Systema, faint signal from deep space. It was a call for help, unlike any before. The voice was urgent, fearful, and desperate. Captain Kane looked at his crew. "We answer," he said. "This is just the beginning." As the Aegis prepared to leave the planet, the survivors waved goodbye, knowing they were not alone anymore. The stars beyond held many mysteries and dangers. But humanity had made its choice to protect, to fight, and to rise. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready.